And this is a good quote from the book. I think there's a natural goodness built into human beings. You know when you stepped across the line into evil, and it's your life's challenge to try and stay on the right side of that line. And that's the thing with Coriolanus. He truly thought he was doing the right thing. Obviously, what's about to happen if you read the book, yeah, he done effed up. But frankly, I think that's the only mess up. He had a chance at real happiness here, and unfortunately, he lets it go. And if you've been following the book, this really shows it as well. The lake water had reduced his mother's rose-scented power to a nasty paste, and he threw the whole thing in the trash. The photos stuck together and shredded when he tried to separate them, so they went the way of the powder. Only the compass has survived the outing. He peeled off his clothes and scrubbed off the last bits of the lake. Everything in this moment that made Coriolanus is now just gone. His mother, Lucy Gray, the photos of his family, his grandmother, his cousin. Coriolanus is now gone. And what's funny was he had told Lucy Gray earlier he had killed 3 people and then lied so the third person was his old self. Well, in actuality, he was right. So now we have the one bad day trope, right? He had his one bad day. Everything that was him, that question, so many issues at the Capitol, they're now gone. And now we get to the grooming part. When you're following the story with Dr. Gall, who is the game maker, Dr. Gall very much believes in the Hunger Games as a way of actually keeping the districts in control. She's fighting the forever war. And while Coriolanus doesn't necessarily get the idea of the forever war, he understands that it is a way of leading to control. So, we get this next little quote. He felt himself pulled right back into the old tutorial with her as if nothing had happened. Yes, it was eye-opening. I thought about all the things we discussed. Chaos, control, the contract, the 3 C's. Did you think about the Hunger Games, she asked. The day we met, Casca asked what their purpose was, and you gave the stock answer, to punish the districts. Would you change that now? Coriolanus remembered the conversation he had had with Sejanus as they unpacked his duffel. I'd elaborate on it. They're not just to punish the districts. They're part of the eternal war. Each one is its own battle, one we can hold in the palm of our hand instead of waging a real war that could get out of our control. And that's the issue we're seeing, is the control part. When you read the book, you hear about one of the things that really sticks with him is the Capitol got so bad that one of his neighbors literally cut off the leg of someone's dead body just so they could feed their family. Like, it makes perfect sense. When we see the original Hunger Games series, we're at 74, 75, and 76. We're not getting, this is only 10 years after a devastating war, and both sides are still dealing with the aftermath. And then so we get the other part of it too, that we see that that nothing has changed between him and Dr. Gall. He has now spent a summer away from her, and her grooming continues. She's already teaching him a lesson, trying to find out and understand if he really knows why the Hunger Games need to exist, at least from their point of view. And here's where it gets serious. Dr. Gall chuckled. It seems you learned a lot on your summer vacation, Mr. Snow. Vacation? He said, perplexed. Well, what were you going to do here? Laze around the Capitol, combing out your curls? I thought a summer with the peacekeepers would be far more educational. She took in the confusion on his face. You don't think I've invested all this time in you to hand you off to those imbeciles in the districts, do you? I don't understand. I was told, he began. She cut him off. I've ordered you an honorable discharge, effective immediately. You're to study under me at the university. The university? Here in the Capitol? He said in surprise. She dropped one last mouse into the tank. Classes start Thursday. Coriolanus is an 18-year-old kid who has been told his whole entire life that his money, his power, his family status, that makes him better than everybody else in the districts. There's a part of him in his baser instincts, as Lucy Gray said, that there is some good in everybody, and you know when you cross that line. For Coriolanus, he had crossed the line with his one bad day. At the end of the freaking book, I kid you not all, for those of you who are like me and sometimes you like a little spoilers, if you're still here, thank you. But honestly, this is the last freaking section of the last chapter of the book. The next page is the epilogue where we start seeing President Snow. I'm not going to show you quotes from the epilogue, because if I was going to quote the epilogue, I'm just going to give it all to you. Like I'd have to read it all, because within it, it's a couple months later. He's now the understudy to the game makers. He basically already has the job. He's preparing for the 11th Hunger Games. He's doing great in his classes. He's talking about his heartbreak. He's not going to let anybody ever control him again. He's going to marry someone who he can despise for the rest of his life. He talks about going to High Bottom and making him understand that, you know, he had a petty grudge with his father. He kills him, like, just... The epilogue is President Snow. And that's the issue I have with the book. I didn't need 500 pages of the person who just has one bad day. I really didn't need 500 pages of that. Don't get me wrong. It's great. It absolutely is great. But come on. And me personally, I don't think it's over. I don't think it's enough to have an epilogue that shows his grooming is taking effect. I think we would really need to see when he understands he crossed the line. As of right now, I don't think he recognizes he crossed the line into evil. Because that's my thing about the original Hunger Games. The original Hunger Games series, there were questions I had, which was, why did President Snow let it go on for as long as he did? Why did he let Katniss just kind of do her own thing? Why didn't he kill her as soon as possible? Like, there are so many questions as to why this all-powerful man, this all-powerful capital, mind you, this is 60 some odd years later, so they are a lot more in control than they were here in the 10th Hunger Games. And yet they couldn't stop the revolution? I personally believe that there is a part of Snow that still holds on to 18-year-old Coriolanus, the one that understood that things had to change, but chaos couldn't rule. And if the system's to change, it has to change in a different direction. This is the reason why he let Katniss live, because he knew she was the catalyst for change, but he could control it, which is why you get the 75th annual Hunger Games where they do the victors. It's why you get, when they get to the Capitol, it's the 76th Hunger Games, right? There's loss of life, but from what I interpret from the 3 books and this book, not as much as the original war. And that's the thing, where Coriolanus wanted to make sure he preserved life. Hate to say it, President Coin just wanted revenge, which is why Katniss kills her. Which is why Snow dies laughing, because he understood this is where society had brought itself to. Things need to change, but you can't change things too quickly. A lot of times people are going to make the same mistakes as the past, and sometimes, just sometimes, we all fall to our baser instincts, and those instincts are not the greatest.